Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. How you doing this evening? Happy Halloween to anyone who's watching that celebrates the Halloween holiday. And I appreciate you coming by and maybe giving up some time of your Halloween celebration or preparation for Halloween or, whatever you're doing to swing by this live stream. So I do greatly appreciate your time. If you're going to watch it later, happy Halloween. Hope you had a good one. And thank you for watching. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the QOA CloudScape, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Aliexpress store HIFICHOI for providing the QOA, or the Queen of Audio, CloudScape for review. Greatly appreciate it. HIFICHOI, you rock. Alright, so the Queen of Hearts, or QOA CloudScape. This will set you back $154 from your bank account. Currently, it's on sale for $123 on Aliexpress's store HIFICHOI. It has 10mm dynamic and a micro planar tweeter, 32 ohms of impedance, and 102 decibels of sensitivity, a frequency response range of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. The QOA CloudScape comes in this nice looking box. It does come in two different colors, blue and like a darker black gray color. You get a nice artistic picture on the front, a little bit of branding, some information on the back side. The inside really isn't anything to show off, but you do get a little bit of paperwork, and then you get some spec information on a card. They also include 2 bags of tips, and they're both silicone, so you get your usual type of tip, which is a olive grape shaped type tip, blue stem, and then you also get another tip, which I will get out here, and that tip is more wide bore, a little bit more shallow, looks like this, and it is purple stemmed. I preferred the wide bore tip. I found that the wide bore tip kind of balanced things out a little bit more, made it a little more cohesive, and it wasn't quite as dominant in the bass as it was with the olive grape shaped tips. But I liked both of them. For a more fun bassy sound, I used the blue tip, but most of my listening was done with the purple tip, as I just found it to be a little bit more to my preference. You also get a very nice carrying case. It says QOA on it. Has a magnetic lid, square, very small, definitely will fit in a bag, and it should stay closed fairly easily. It's definitely going to protect the CloudScape, and it has enough room for it to fit in, which is a nice. The CloudScape itself, we have the blue ones. The picture on the faceplate matches the picture on the box. You have a matching cable, which is kind of like this light blue aqua type of color. Nice ear hooks, good tension. A rather large split with a cinch that does work. And then it terminates into a 3.5. You can also get it with 4.4. Does not have a swappable termination. The cable is okay. It's a nice cable as far as the build of it and the feel of it. Problem is, it never really lost its curviness. It always has a little bit of swervies to it. But overall, it's not a bad cable for the price tag. Just a little bit on the stiffer side, and I wish that it was a little bit more pliable. All right, so the CloudScape, very nicely built. They're not very heavy. They have a very, very small wing and a medium-sized nozzle. I find that the CloudScape fits me very well. Pop them in the ears, they just disappear. I had no issues whatsoever wearing these for hours. They just disappeared in the ears. and they feel very, very good. They also isolate outside noises quite well. I found that there are probably 55%, maybe 60% of outside noises being blocked. Pretty much the only things that I was able to hear are really loud things, garbage disposal, coffee grinder, vacuum cleaners, loud cars, that type of thing. Carrying on a conversation with somebody was very hard to do, even with the music paused. I found that they did a good job, even with the wide bore tip. 32 ohms of impedance, 102 decibels of sensitivity. I found that the QOA CloudScape is quite easy to drive. It wasn't really that picky with sources. The only thing that kind of stood out a little bit was the fact that bassier, warmer sounding devices tended to make it sound a little bit more bloated, a little thicker, and a little sluggish in the bass and in the lower mid-range at times, but also helped out a little bit of a peak in the upper mids and lower treble region. So kind of depends on your preference. If you like a more energetic sound and a little bit more bassy, warm sound would be okay. Neutral was all right, but those upper mids could be a little bit troublesome at times. Overall, any dongle DAP desktop was able to drive them. They're not picky at all. So how do the QOA CloudScape sound? I found that the bass of the CloudScape is quite pleasurable and it is very energetic. I found that it has a nice presence into the sub bass. There's good rumble and grumble. The mid bass is definitely present. There's a lot there and it drives home. There's a lot of impact, punch, and slam, and it has a presence about it. It can get a little too much, a little too exuberant, and then at times it'll kind of get a little sluggish and a little bit bloated and full sounding. Same thing with the upper bass. It'll bleed into the mid range just a little bit, add a little bit of fullness to the mids, but at the same time it kind of goes into their territory and kind of messes around and bloats things up a little bit. Depending on the type of source that you use, it can be a little bit better controlled with a more neutral source, but if you're using a warmer source or something that has a more bassy presence, the QOA CloudScape will have a little bit more of a thicker, more robust, possibly leaning, bloated, sluggish at times. But it is fun, it's engaging, and there's a lot of it. It definitely will rumble in the ears, and it definitely will tickle the ears. It's a fun bass, and I found that my arms were flailing around as an air drummer quite a bit when listening with the CloudScape. The mids. The mids are a more upper mid-range present. The lower mids do have a little bit of warmth, a little bit of fullness from the bass range, but they are slightly behind the upper ranges. I found that the upper ranges have a little bit more of a forwardness to them, and depending on the track and depending on the source that you're using, especially sources that were a little bit more mid-forward or a little bit more neutral leaning, they sounded to be a little bit more forthright in their presentation in the upper mids, and they could have a little bit of too much energy to those who are sensitive in the 2.5K, 3.5K range. But for the most part, I found that the mids were very pleasurable and engaging, even though they were slightly recessed in the lower mid-range. I found that the tonality was good, and there was nice air and space throughout, and things had their own positioning. But like the bass, when used with a warmer source, things kind of came together a little bit, and they didn't quite have as much air and space to them. Tonality-wise was good, and the details and resolution were also quite good in the mid-range. Going into the treble, I found that the treble extended nicely and it was well controlled. There was enough air, enough bite, edge, and crispness to keep things from going into boring mode, but at the same time, there was never really enough there to kind of really bring things together and to put a spotlight on the treble. It was a safe sounding treble. And I liked it because it wasn't fatiguing, but I also didn't quite like it because it didn't quite have that little bit extra. It didn't quite have the zippiness I was looking for. but it did everything correctly. Tonality was there, nice details, nice resolution, and overall it gave enough. But sometimes I just wish that there was a little bit more in the treble. Soundstage wise, I found that the soundstage of the QOA CloudScape is quite nice. It's a very natural sounding stage, and it does a good job of portraying small, medium, and large tracks. Didn't really ever get into that grand size, but it does a good job of giving you all the differences in venues. Also, the imaging was quite good for the price tag. I found that it was not quite precise, but it was pretty close. It was in a very small neighborhood. You could go, that's right in there. And you could follow things as they changed positionings and as they moved. And as things exited and entered the stage, you could track them very well. It did a good job also with depth, except for more complex and busier tracks, and also tracks that were more bassy prone. They tended to get a little bit muddled and confused, and things kind of got lost a little bit and buried behind the bass. But for the most part, it did a pretty good job with depth and layering, and you could look into the stage and diagnose it. Detail retrieval and resolution is quite good. Also, I was rather impressed at that. You're not going to miss anything, but you're also not really going to explore anything either. I found that the details and resolution is adequate for its price point, and it did a good job. Every now and then, those upper mid-range and lower treble regions could be just a little too much, and there was just a little bit of graininess there. And that could be that planar tweeter coming into play and just not meshing as well with the dynamic. But for the most part, I found that the details and resolution were good. Tonality also is pretty good. I did find that that upper mid-range and lower treble region where it's a little bit more forward at times could sound a little bit strained and just a little bit unnatural. It wasn't egregious and it wasn't like off-putting or anything, but it definitely was not the most natural in that range. I also found that I lost my place. We talked about soundstage, we talked about details and resolution, we talked about tone and timbre. I also found that the QOA CloudScape is really good with gaming. I really enjoyed it with gaming, and I popped in my ears, and they had that nice bass presence and a little bit warmer, and they did a good job with details and resolution. And even though they don't have the widest of stages, which is something that I don't prefer when gaming anyways, I actually do prefer things to be a little bit on the closer side, but yet accurate. I found that the QOA CloudScape was good in that regard, and it gave me all the information that I needed. But do keep in mind that I'm not playing first-person shooters or wide open space type of games. I'm playing sports games and racing games, so I'm not as much playing first-person shooters. So, the QOA CloudScape. I enjoy this, and I think that it's a solid IEM for its price point, something different. It looks nice, it's comfortable, it does a good job with noise isolation, and also it does good in its gaming setup, and it's a fun listen when it comes to music, and it plays pretty much with any type of source, so it's not super picky. It's a good all-arounder for its price point. I'm not sure that it really would be a top choice in its price point, but at the same time, it's a different choice in its price point. All right, so I'm going to sit here and wait for about 5 minutes and see if anybody joins the live chat. And if they don't, we'll call it quits for the live stream this evening. So have fun watching me sit here putting the QOA CloudScape away. All right, just a couple quick things before before I call it quits on this live stream, since nobody is showing up. Number one, things to come next on the review schedule. These are the things that we have in for review currently. We have the Pula Audio Unicron, the Moondrop Land 2, the pop version and the reference version. We have the Fosse Audio IM4s. We have the Opos Audio Community Rock Lobster. We also have the Kiwi Ears Z Reviews Serene. We have the UA Vanguard from Venture Electronics, the SMSL R1, the Fosse Audio ZH3, the Aune N7, the Bellari BA525, the Galvatron from Venture Electronics, the Nichocek Octave, the Quest Style Sigma, the FIO M21, the Fosse Audio GR70, the FIO S15, and the Kiwi Ears Ultruva that we're going to be revisiting. All of those are in for review currently. We are going to continue with the current way that we've been doing reviews, which is some on live stream and some getting their own individual videos. And then also we're going to be doing some multi-product all at once type of reviews, as well as some things just don't deserve a full review or a live stream review. And that's about it. So thank you for everybody watching this after the fact, and hope you all have a happy Halloween and an enjoyable weekend, and go Bills. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information regarding how you can contact channel, follow channel, support channel. Speaking of supporting channel, I want to thank my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships and one-time gifts. Thank you very much for all that you give to the channel. It's much appreciated. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out the links down below. There's all kinds of other information regarding how you can contact the channel and follow the channel. I already mentioned all that. Also down below, there's gear rankings and music recommendations and tier lists and all kinds of other things, so listed down below, so don't forget to check those out. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.